Hello, I love the teacher voice. Hello, everybody. Welcome to our session. And Oya and I are going to tell you all about how collections have evolved. And so the first portion will be Oya giving an overview of how collections have changed over time and broadened out. I'll get a little bit into how that has translated into library liaison responsibilities. And we'll have enough time to have an interactive portion with a live poll. And now I would like to introduce Dr. Oya Rieger, and thanks very much.
Thank you, that was a very nice introduction. Can you hear me comfortably? Wonderful. I think Angie very nicely just described the goal for discussion this afternoon. We're going to talk about collections, how they are changing, the changes and impact on the notion of collections. But more importantly, I think we are going to spend almost half of this session live polling, asking you questions. I went to 3 presentations today, and it was amazing how much I learned. And I said, if I were writing my slides again, I would probably be saying different things. So you are coming here not to learn from us as experts, but you are bringing your own local expertise. Plus, you are leading several discussions this morning to talk about the collection. So please do see it as a kind of a collective presentation in that sense. Angie and I are going to summarize some issues from our perspectives, but we really, as I said, are going to turn it over to you and through live polling, get a sense of what's happening, because we know that you represent a diverse range of libraries with different sizes and different budgets, so on and so forth. And again, as I said, I was able to went to 3 talks today, and I think each one was very successfully articulating, tried to unpack and articulate these questions. What does it mean to have a collection? How do you build it? If you are creating a collection policy, what is it going to be in this collection policy? A few months ago, I worked for Etika SNR. Some of you may already know, but Etika SNR is a part of Etika as an organization with Portico, JSTOR, so on and so forth. And SNR, we have really the pleasure of focusing more on strategy and research and consultancies. And it was great for me to sit down and write this brief, what's a collection anyway. And I was by no means attempting to come up with some solutions, but it was really more, as I said, kind of complicating and trying to explain, kind of my own perspectives. Plus, I really benefited from reviewers. Actually, Angie was one of them. So what I want to do is I wanted to mention that brief because my talk will be somewhat kind of synopsis of what I tried to articulate in that brief. And this list of key drivers of change are really kind of familiar to you, but I would like to go over them quickly just to illustrate, to give some examples. The first one is the changing nature of scholarly record. Maybe up until 15, 20 years ago, when we said scholarly record, we were more talking about the books, or we're talking about journal articles. Now, anything from the point of your starting an investigation or research all the way to you disseminating your research could be a scholarly record. You could have your code, you could have your research methodology, you could have preprints, you could have AV generated. And of course, you still can have your journal, you can have your monograph, but you could have a webcast of you talking about your presentation. So, because scholarly record is very much at the heart of collections, one thing for us to really think about is, as scholarly record is broadening, again, in terms of articulating what is a collection, it becomes more complex. The second one, we all have so much evidence about it. Generally speaking, library portals are not necessarily the first destination from school, from faculty and students' perspective as they are searching for new information. They increasingly are preferring scalable, larger platforms such as Google search engine or some publishers' platforms. Growing emphasis on open access. As a matter of fact, as I said, I went to 3 talks, and many of them, a big part of this morning's conversation was about open access. And I think we are going to be really curious to hear from you, as I said, during the second half, but just my own experience, it's very often that collections program is decoupled from scholar communication program, where institutional repositories are run, where digital humanities happen, or where copyright services, although they are so much related to our collections. And especially as we find ourselves in this conversation about how to shift funds from our current proprietary collection development or database or resource subscription purchase to openness. Again, it's such a kind of, the boundaries are very blurred with scholar communication. That's where open access is happening very often. Increasing prominence of distinctive collections. Again, this is kind of debatable, but I know some libraries are saying, what some people call commodity collections, which means subscription or purchase options where many other libraries might be also investing in. They are saying, maybe I should be really looking into distinctive collections, whether there's a subject domain, very unique to my community, or there are some resources created by my community. And again, we'll be really interested to hear from you because, if we lived in a world where each library would turn into distinctive collections, what's going to happen with the commodity collections? Because still they are very important and our scholars are relying on them. And evolving library priorities. Again, we look forward to hearing from you, but many libraries, I used to be at Cornell. I was at Cornell for more than 20 years, 10 years of it as an associate university librarian with collections responsibilities. And it was interesting how there were times where we took collections for granted, but as we were talking with the department chairs or with the provost, what did we talk about? Digital humanities, makerspace, research data. So, as we are kind of trying to rebrand, some of us also worry about, would collections kind of lose their appeal with senior leadership staff? We are not talking much about collections sometimes because they are more, as I said, taken for granted. This is a study from Ethica SNR. Some of you might be familiar. This is a faculty study that the results came a few months ago. It's based on data gathered in 2018. And this is a study that Ethica SNR conducts every 3 years, and there were not that many surprises, but one real trend is still more and more, still when you talk with faculty, when you ask, here are what libraries do, rank, which ones are important for you, still the majority of them are selecting libraries' role as a buyer, getting the collections for them. But on the other hand, especially from students' perspective, probably you would share this experience, they sometimes don't know, they find a resource, luckily there's this link resolver, here they are looking at a journal article, but they sometimes don't understand that they are looking at that article, they are downloading that article because library is paying the subscription for. So it's kind of a dilemma that they are not recognizing, but also the fact that it's still seeing library as a buyer. Again, this is data that is not too unfamiliar to you. I'm sure that although many of us are privileging digital, again, there's evidence, some of it are actually from my own organization, from Ethica SNR, and I know there are a wide range of studies indicating that still print matters for some disciplines, even those disciplines where there's so much reliance on digital. There are kind of levels of learning that, for skimming, for finding, yes, digital is great, but when it comes to deep learning, deep reading, still some learners do prefer print. So, we kind of are challenged with this sort of statistics. Yeah, these books are maybe not being read, but we are not ready to make the turn and say, hey, we are going to just go totally digital. I think some of you were probably this morning's one of the keynotes with Lorcan Dempsey. I think he's somebody so eloquent. I love listening to him. I love reading. And his models are conceptually so strong. But when you start thinking about its pragmatic aspects, it's not easy. You are familiar with this facilitated collection concept. He actually makes such a strong case. He says, hey, look at libraries. More and more we're investing in licensing, streaming. Our users are relying on open access, network access, the interlibrary loan is growing. So we need to kind of start thinking about collections as a coordinated mix of local, external, so on and so forth. But again, as I said, I'll repeat, we look forward to hearing from you, but when you start putting it into practice in your local setting, it's not as easy as it sounds, because it basically requires that you trust that there's this wisdom of the crowds, that there's this well coordinated, that there aren't going to be gaps. As you maybe cancel your subscription for a journal, your assumption is somebody's going to have it. I'm so intrigued and encouraged with all these news coverage about some of our colleagues canceling their big deals, right? And what do they say? They say, hey, faculty, if you need this journal article, we cancel this journal, but guess what? We could get it for you from through interlibrary. But again, the dilemma there is, we are able to think collectively in this broad manner, but still you are relying on a library to start purchasing it. We have so many examples. I mean, librarianship, or the folks who are drawn into libraries are very collaborative, and I think there are so many examples of collaboration. As I was talking about collaboration, somebody reminded me that it kind of way goes back. I'm sure it's even before 1942, but some of you may know that there was this Farmington Plan where research libraries tried to work together, especially with foreign materials, because there was war and there were natural disasters. They wanted to make sure that research libraries together are collecting these materials. So the idea of merging resources, working together, building collections together is not a really new concept. But on the other hand, still individually at a library level, we are feeling the pressure to focus our own needs, our own stakeholders and user groups. I think I would love to hear more stories about a universal librarian or at a leadership level, someone from the library, or anybody working at the library, going to a department chair or a provost and justifying why they are kind of spending the money at the collaboration level, not individual library level, and be able to give the value proposition. It sounds good, but when it comes, again, your faculty are going to say, wait a minute, are you sure that this is for my best interest, that you are now joining forces with 15 libraries and thinking about the collective good rather than my own interests? Some of these points that I'm making are really kind of being devil's advocate to, that, as I said, we really look forward to kind of hearing from you and challenging us or adding your own stories. So in means of redefining library collections, as I said, unfortunately, we are not disappointed. We are not going to kind of come up with this, like Lorcan Dempsey does in a wonderful way, new conceptual models about how we should be doing it. We are kind of more throwing there some ideas. And redefining library collections, I just want to go through a few concepts that we are hearing a lot. One of them is collective collections. Anybody here involved in a shared storage initiative, for instance? Yes, excellent, yeah. And you do know that, again, these are conceptually very strong, very pragmatic, they make a lot of sense, but then when you start operationalize them, you sometimes run into governance issues, who owns what, retention, how many copies, how do you indicate retention decisions? Again, it's not always easy, or preservation commitments. But what really intrigues me is, I think we have been focusing more on sometimes with shared storage, retrospective collections. But I think it's really exciting to think about what does it mean to build a collection in a shared storage environment for prospective collections. That brings in many new areas. But ultimately, with collective collections, it's about how you access, how you discover. Although we are here talking about collections, collections is not a sideline. If you think about it, we are talking about collections, we are developing collections, because what we want to do is support learning, teaching, and creative expression. So it's all about discover and access, just that collections happen to be at the heart of this process. Digital scholarship is, again, another concept that we think about and we hear about a lot in terms of collections and the future of collections. collections as data. There are only a handful of libraries really seriously using collections as data and are able to provide holistic ways of supporting their faculty, because it's not only getting a full-text historic database in a digital form, but you need to make sure that you have the software and the hardware, and that faculty has resources to be able to use these, and that they use it in understanding the privacy issues, and they're able to present, and they're able to really evaluate this data. So it's not only having a digital file, it really is kind of this full life cycle of scholarship. And especially those of you who are involved in collections, but also have liaison, more and more, some of us are being expected to act as think and act as technologists, especially instructional technologists, whether we are working with learning objects, or whether we are supporting a faculty member more and more getting interest in visualization. And there's so much interest in skill development, but it's happening in the midst of some of us also feeling overwhelmed. And I know Andrew's going to actually talk a bit about liaison and selection models. One of the talks I went this morning, it was from Carleton and Guelph, right, from Canada, and they provided some excellent examples of how they are changing their selection and budgeting models. Again, I don't mean to generalize at all. I do realize that we have a diverse range of models here, but some libraries might have, gosh, I know up to 6 selectors with very, very specialized responsibility, and it's only a segment of their responsibility. And of course, there are so many, we have a very long list of way it works. They are liaison, they are subject specialists, they are embedded in their communities, but more and more, libraries, especially with budget pressure, are concerned about the managerial aspects of this intellectual model that works. And after this morning's presentation from Gulf and I don't want to pronounce that right, Gulf, right? And Carleton was that they really totally changed their collection model, that they now have selectors. Almost 90% of their job is selection, which is emotionally a bit difficult for some librarians because we want to be embedded in our communities, but their justification is they can make holistic decisions rather than having 125 codes for different material budgets. Now they combine that. Again, there's no wrong and right, but I'm mentioning this just to illustrate that we are kind of looking into models because we have a vision, we have mission, but also we have resources that you almost kind of need to find this perfect balance. And of course, don't forget about the interdisciplinary issues too, that this individual selection models also sometimes challenge when it comes to interdisciplinary selection areas. This is an area I hope is going to be getting more and more attention, but as we are, maybe some of us are managing, developing, shaping our collections with more limited funds. What are the opportunities there? How could we make sure that libraries are also sometimes privileging underrepresented communities? Some of you might be especially intersecting with archives. Selection is not a neutral process. We make certain decisions, and as we make those decisions, certain content will not get selected. But with value-driven collections, it's very close to our heart. But again, locally, how does it work when you have faculty members needing certain resources? And this is my last one, research workflow tools. Again, I don't mean to generalize, but what we're also seeing is with collections, what really is important is how can we support this entire life cycle of research? Let me give a very quick example. If you are selecting a range of chemistry databases, sometimes what you are finding by working with your faculty and your students is that it's not only the chemistry database, that there's actually a software from the same publisher that is important to also acquire and work with academic technology so it could be installed at the department level, because with that software they are able to extract data from this chemistry database. Or they may also want lab notebooks in many physical sciences, that there's laboratory notebooks that students and faculty are entering their data. But the important thing is for the subscription database, software, and lab notebook to be somewhat interoperable so that they don't have these three components. But more and more, I think we will hear about research workflows and Elsevier and digital science. Some publishers are really ahead of the game, that they're already working on more understanding the research workflows and bundling tools. Some consider blocking, some consider enabling factors. I guess it depends on whether you are talking, depends on the different perspectives presented. I'm going to turn it over to Angie. Maybe I can, if there's one or two questions, we will take it, but Angie's going to have just a few additions and we will then ask questions. Anything that you want to clarify or? Okay, thank you for listening.
I'll try the teacher voice. Can you guys hear me?
Yeah.
Okay, very good. So as you know, as collections have changed, so the issues have changed that we deal with as librarians and liaisons. And as the business models change, that also means that we need to broaden out our skills more and more. So it's not only knowing your vendor and you buy something from them, but we grapple with many issues and proliferations of new forms of materials, of course, in a constrained budgetary environment. And we grapple with access versus ownership, rearing its head again in new forms. And it's brought us to selection versus curation. Are we spending more resources toward digitizing our own materials, of showcasing unique local collections? How do we continue to honor what Oya calls the commodity collections, those bread and butter materials that all researchers pretty much rely on? So it's a balancing act. And there have been several new studies, recent studies out about changes in academic libraries, and those issues are also highlighted in greater depth. And there's a lot of talk about new emerging services, but does that make the collection stewardship obsolete? No. And how many of you have heard about the collections as a service movement? Okay, some of you. And it's a new name for a service orientation that doesn't seem that new to me. It's basically stewardship of collections with a view to the end user's needs in mind, as opposed to for the tradition of purchasing materials. And I went to a liaison institute last year, and the impression I got there was that people there thought that people would just do acquisitions for acquisition's sake, and none of the libraries I've ever worked in had that approach. So I'm not sure, maybe I've just been living in a lucky bubble, but every library I've worked in has been very service oriented, so maybe we were ahead of the times. So in other words, collections are more embedded in the broader intellectual enterprise of our parent institutions. And so I also did, in the slides, I have a link to that dangerous liaison that talked in more depth about more detailed findings from some research on library liaisons, difficulties that are being faced, but several research projects. And in last year, I polled the participants in the session about pain points, and most of them fell around the spread of duties, the workload was outsized, people felt that they needed to develop new skills, but there was no conduit, naturally occurring conduit for developing those skills, and it was just difficult. And then some librarians had institutions with very high turnover, so it was difficult to make anything stick. And of course, As you have turnover, you have information silos, as the task ground for each person becomes more fragmented, it becomes difficult to have some intersecting points that sticks because everybody is going off in too many directions at the same time, and that makes collaboration, it can make collaboration difficult. Time was also in short supply as opposed to balancing duties that sometimes felt like several jobs rolled into one in several very different positions, whether it's teaching, collection, stewardship, collecting, advising people on evaluating materials, or dealing with technologies to support online programs. All of those rolled into one can be their own full-time task grounds in their own right, and some liaisons experience those combined in their own positions and have difficulty balancing that load, especially at peak times with very high teaching needs in that particular point in the academic year. And sometimes liaisons felt that they were being asked to represent everything that the library does, and that led to an underlying theme of losing focus. What is the library about? What are we about? What are our roles about? How do we build relationships? Some felt it was the Wild West. Some felt that there was too much crossing over and not enough shared communication. Lack of mentoring for new liaisons, a lot of trying to just figure it out as you go. So, as collections change from traditional purchases, straightforward purchases, to the proliferation of broadening out, whether it's streaming media or digital collections, digital archiving collections, participating in your own university scholarly initiatives, those take different skill sets, different time management, and they also impact the way your work is configured. So what I would like to do is have some of your thoughts. We don't want to just talk at you. We would really love to have give you a chance to share your thoughts with us. And so we have an online poll. It's totally anonymous. There's no identifying information. So if you could please go to the menti.com, and the code is 128386. And as we walk through the questions, at the end of the session, I'm going to write up the findings and share those with you guys first. The responses will also be incorporated on the slides. And, in December, eventually they'll also be published in the proceedings, but they don't come out until next year. And now I'm going to the poll.
Do we have any Wi-Fi?
We should.
We should go and find it. Angela, do we wait? I think if anybody also needs wireless, that will be
Yeah, it's H honors.
Do we know the password, or shall I find it?
Yeah, I've got it. Do you want me to read it out? It's capital C, capital H, capital S, E, all these are capitals. CHSES20.
Do I need to write it, or?
What was it?
CHSES20.
CHSES20?
Correct.
And uppercase, you said?
Yes.
It works all lowercase too.
Oh.
CHS.
Which Wi-Fi?
Oh, H honors. H honors.
H on it.
In case we use it on phone.
Oh, wait. So something went wrong here. Sorry about that. Okay. So that's menti.com, menti.com, 128386. I'm gonna put that option
No, we
there.
didn't say anything bad. Anybody needs assistance, just raise your hand. I'll be happy to come and see you.
So are some of you having trouble getting through? Sometimes technology works, sometimes it doesn't.
Or some of you may prefer not to participate, that's fine too.
Okay. So are we ready to move on?
Yeah.
Okay.
I am the Donald Danforth Quick Science in St. Louis. We have an enormous population within town. So one of the things I see is that
Can you read off the board?
Pardon? Oh, okay, the roles are acquisitions, administrator, digital collections.
Should be showing up on your phone.
It should show up on the phone, on your device, because there should be something with every question. So the choices are acquisitions, administrator, collections, digital collections, open access curator, special collections, subject bibliographer, research librarian, data curator, and vendor or other. Okay, no data librarian. So is everybody who wants to vote entered the information? Okay, I see some yeses. So here we have some industry trends. And so one of the trends is business models and budget constraints, collaborative repositories, consortium deals, proliferation of digital media, publisher packages, and resource licensing frameworks. So if you could please rate these by importance and impact. And there is no right or wrong answer. These are just listed alphabetically. And when you vote, it'll be a scatter plot.
How would you describe the difference between impact and importance?
Well, if it's something that's impacting the profession because there's a big pull in that direction, whether that's that would be distinct from, is it truly important in supporting the intellectual work that you're doing in the very long term? Maybe those two could be pulling in different directions, where importance, I would say, are they important to your mission, whereas the impact could just mean they're pulling away a lot of money,
Okay.
for example. Or everybody's talking about it and your upper level administration is saying, you need to invest in this because it's new and shiny. Yeah, it looks like it, yeah. Well, because of other supports or constraints, everything. So has everyone who wants to rate these trends entered the information, or do you need more time?
A little more time.
Okay. I know sometimes the phone can be tricky. So are we still voting and rating? Anyone? Do you want me to move on? Okay, I see more yes laws. All right, we're moving forward. And again, these collection types are listed in alphabetic order to start. So please rank these by importance. And the choices are data sets to purchase as a library resource, or digital archiving collections, print materials, subscriptions in all formats, journals, databases, and other things, streaming media, and special collections and rare books. So there's no right or wrong answer. Please rank away. So we're back to bread and butter. Oh, look at that, we have a tug of war. Streaming media and digital archival collections are neck and neck. Any more votes? Okay, streaming media, back to third. Okay, do we need more time for more voting, or has everyone voted who wants to vote? Ready to move on? Okay. And so here we have three broader trends. So, and the choices listed alphabetically are access versus ownership, which could be leased content versus purchasing something, digitization of unique local collections, and open access infrastructure support versus collection building as broader trends. Which of these do you think are the most important? Does anyone need more time for voting? Ready to move on?
This one is really very interesting. Again, just to highlight the point of this whole concept of facilitated collections, thinking broadly, building infrastructure versus the need to focus on your own users and stakeholders.
Yeah, and there's a real tension between
Yeah,
those.
there is.
Okay, ready to move on? Okay, I see some yeses. So here we have an alphabetical listing of 6 new library service types, and these were some examples that are on the forefront now of discussion, or maybe hot, new, and shiny. So they're augmented reality, virtual reality, maker spaces, data curation, data visualization, text and data mining. So how would you rank these by importance? Yeah. I'm not surprised. Oh, but look at that, it's really switching on. Is anyone still voting? Does anyone need more time? Ready to move on? Okay. So we've covered some factors of influence. What did we miss? So this is free form. Any thoughts? No right or wrong answer. Maybe so. Okay, data storage, very good. Okay, and as I always say when I teach classes, no idea is too crazy. And don't be shy.
There's less, I think, wide but I think that those servers have a long way to go to get rejection, so that people actually stumble on that stuff.
Yeah.
Right now, I do a lot of analysis. What I try to do is I try to do that. What I find is very often you don't see.
We talked about it. It's not. Yeah. Yeah. It's not running forward the way it's supposed to. Valuable speech bubble. Oh, yeah, we have it twice. Yeah, and that's a big issue. Does anyone need more time? You ready to move forward? Okay, I see some yeses. And so now about the big deal. Is it important? And so some major cases have been in the news lately, which shall remain nameless. So is the big deal still important? Is it expendable? So this is your Hyde Park cyber corner. Sound off. No thought is too crazy.
Yeah, especially if you have any opinions about transformer theory. But we don't have a simple question about that.
Right,
Are
right.
they good? Some of you might have read news items today about Elsevier and transformer theory.
And we need better deals. As they say in the South, amen, sister, or maybe amen, brother. Necessary evil. Yeah?
Like they're studying a height for them.
Yeah. Don't tempt me, Miss Oya. Big deals are a ripoff.
We have therapy session here too.
I'm not a succeeding. Well, they can eat grab that. Value depends on users. Still cost-effective. Do we need more time to vote? You want me to scroll forward? Okay, oh, we have some new entries. Okay, and there's some with a very light color. So one says not always bad. The other one says value depends on users. Mileage may vary. Very interesting. That's true. Yep, inflation ties up too much. Very much so. Okay, ready to move on? All right. Oh, sorry. I'll go back. Both and, okay. All right. All right, so do I move on? All right. So now we'll focus in on open access a little bit. And so I would just like you, and this is a Likert scale, I would just like you to say how strongly you agree with those statements. My institution has an open access budget. We track open access expenses, or we've reallocated funds to open access from other areas. And so please state the strength of your agreement with each of these statements.
We are talking about no collections budget. Right.
Right.
Within the collection.
Yes, yes. Sorry.
It's quite interesting, 11 track or expenses. Oh, wait, no, we need to explain how to read this, look, I read it, that's 0 to 5 scale, maybe.
All right, so 0 means not at all on the scale, and 5 means yes, very much.
So just looking at this, most of the responses are in the first quarter, right?
Yes.
25%.
So most really don't have an OA budget.
Which is very normal.
Mhm.
Even it's questionable now what constitutes an open access expense,
Right.
given all the pressure points we have, everybody,
Mhm.
everybody different aspects of open access.
Yeah, and it could be anything to funding an infrastructure or pledging to a front list, an open access front list. It could be any of these areas.
Yeah, even I know a couple of libraries where they are putting some money from their collections budget to their institutional repositories. So where do you stop? It's hard to read these ones.
Well, and that is a form of open access. Okay, ready to move on? Okay, I see some yeses. So this is, if you're doing something with open access, what types of things are you supporting now? And this is totally open-ended. Oh, yeah. Oh, look at that. Yeah, I see what's that.
Yeah, I read that one. Yeah. Oh, wow.
Wow. Transformative appearance. I see that, yeah. Okay, it's not scrolling forward. Needs human intervention.
You want to go all the way up so everybody can see the beginning.
Yeah, OA policy. Oh, look at that. Yes. I suspect this one is because of tenure criteria at the institutions. Yeah, I see some nodding.
This was a very popular question. And if you want to go up, if anybody missed the first page here.
Okay.
I don't know if it is.
Can you all see that all the way in the, okay. A good bit of scope 3 in IRs.
good blend.
Yeah, it is. Any more votes? Ready to move on? Okay. So for those of you who are maybe have something in mind that you're not working on, or do you have future plans? Is there some open access work that's on your wish list? What are those? And that could be anything. Anyone else still waiting to vote? Yeah, I see that. Yeah, sometimes you don't know. Anyone still voting? Ready to move on? Okay. Yeah. So now we're switching gears to the library as publisher concept. Are you involved? Anyone still entering information? Ready to move forward? Okay. Oh, got another one. Yeah. So for those of you who are involved with library as publisher, what sorts of projects are you involved in? And this is open-ended. Has everyone voted? Are you involved in digital humanities? Oh, look. Yeah. Okay, more yeses. Okay, ready to move forward? So with diversity, equity, and social justice, is that having an impact on your programs? Are you collecting anything new to consider diversity, equity, and social justice? Not really? Okay. Okay. So this is from the opposite end. Yeah. Is anyone still voting? Writing? Ready to move forward? Okay, I see one half yes nod. Are some of you still writing? Okay, all right, I'll move forward. Are collection policies still important? Yes, no, undecided? No. Oh, look. Ready to move forward? So is resource sharing taken for granted, or is there a new dawn? And so we have 5. We have interlibrary loan, consortial borrowing and lending, collaborative collection development, collaborative print repositories, and digital repository memberships. So 0 means it's taken for granted, and 5 means it's very much valued on the scale. Are you ready to move on? So what about preservation and conservation? 0 means there's no program at all, and 5, yes, there's a program and it's in depth and it's advanced. Okay. Tyranny of averages. So are we ready to move on? Okay, I'm gonna just, so what collection skills would you like to develop, if any?
Shall we make this the last question and keep the third questions?
Okay, let's just go to free-form and open-ended. What did we miss? And do you have any closing thoughts about the evolving collections landscape? We were a little over-ambitious with the number of questions. Yeah, well, do you have any questions, comments?
Well, thank you very much for coming, and I think one of the goals of this live poll was just to show you the diversity, but also to show you what a kitchen sink collections has become. We've been keeping track of the questions that we have asked. It just spans through so many different program areas, whether it's scholar communication, preservation, digital humanities, learning and research and teaching services. It was great, some of you mentioned learning objects, for instance, how they are now influencing. So thank you so much for coming. We know that there are so many wonderful presentations now or next coming up. And if you have any questions, come and see us. Thank you so much for coming.